what are the expectations from the budget?
My expectations are regarding the housing for all under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. So, yeah, giving affordable housing the infrastructure status and bringing into the priority sector actually have boosted the the construction projects in this particular area, and the supply gap as per now is around 18 million units, and which is from the affordable segment, which constitute around 57%. So. With this, actually, the government is trying to spur the growth in the cater to the problem of the urbanization, and not just this, it's also creating a lot of employment. I mean, we can see that with that construction is a major sector for like sir was saying, to bring employment. But what my expectations are that government is doing a lot. I mean, the interest subvention for the loans, the tax credits, and the financing, the refinancing of around 20,000 crores by the national housing banks. All these are there, but what my expectations are that more and more projects are coming with all these companies taking part, like the Tatas, Mahindras, or the Shapoorji Pallonji. But this project should not be something which is not sustainable. As such, there should be improved sanitation, there should be proper electricity and water. So it should not just turn into ghost cities later on. So my expectations is that there should be a lot of allocation.
So the ecosystem should be sort of holistic.
Very sustainable.
I'll be talking about the women labour force participation.
Very important topic actually, if you look at India's gender gap versus other countries.
So the demographic division in the labour force participation is alarming in India. With around 50% population, the women labour force participation in urban areas is around 27% and has been declining in the rural sector as well. Whereas numerous studies have shown that if the women labour force participation is as compared to men, India's GDP and net income would increase by around 27%. So that is a huge boost, and if the government could create initiatives such as tax-free holidays and increased initiatives for women and entrepreneurs, and give them a boost in micro sectors also, including creation of jobs in the non-farm rural sector is a very important factor. So this will also reduce the government fiscal deficit, because the government now does not have to spend so much on health and other social issues, because the women in the households are also earning, and that will give them a boost, and that will give them a say in the economic matters in the family.
I'd like to express my views on political funding.
So electoral bonds.
Yeah, representative democracy.
Still a lot of debate going around on whether it's the best way forward.
Yeah. So political funding has long been seen as a haven for black money, and there is an urgent need to clean it up. And products like electoral bonds, they're kind of shrouded in secrecy and anonymity, and I kind of feel they're taking us back from transparency. So instead of shooting in the dark, we could probably look at our developed counterparts like US and UK, who have gone through the same process some years back.
Where they disclose the names of the donors?
Yeah, there are other disclosure requirements, and there is state funding of political parties. But at the same time, we are not far behind them as far as policies are concerned. So US and UK also find them mired in a lot of political scandals every now and then, which probably means that we could learn from our own mistakes as well as their mistakes. So, like for instance, we are writing off voluntary disclosure schemes because they have not been really successful here. But we could probably initiate schemes that are targeted at specific individuals. So this would be possible post-demonetization, because the government will have an updated database about suspected money launderers, and it will be supported by an increasingly digitized ecosystem.
Sure.
Yeah.
Your expectations?
My expectations, or rather my worries, is about how the government will meet its fiscal deficit targets. So the basis of this is twofold. First of all, that the global commodity prices, namely that of oil, is on the rise. It has bottomed out, and consequently India is heavily oil dependent, import dependent. And so we might see a rise in fiscal deficit, which is translated through an increase in subsidies on oil and fertilizers.
Right.
And the second part is the NPA issue, which has already been mentioned.
Which he's already discussed.
And so that can also form a part of our fiscal deficit policies, because the government will have to announce a bailout package and thereby impacting our numbers. So the reason for this is that Chinese slowdown in growth has happened, and it's on India to drive the onus of growth, especially in Asia and in the world. So with a higher fiscal deficit, the government multiplier in the macroeconomic equation will not be able to function as effectively.
My point is more based upon the fiscal deficit. So government has already taken off the fiscal deficit targets. It's around 112% currently. So the the next budget is expected to be a populist budget.
Correct.
So government should cut down on the unproductive expenditure and try to focus more on the productive expenditure part
What would you define as unproductive and
unproductive would be the tax rebates which they are giving across, the subsidies which are moving across, and the loan waivers which are there. Productive would be something which would be related to the employment, the infrastructure development, and would generate more revenues for the unemployed people to come into the workforce.